Awesome. What's going on, guys? Evolution here, and today I'm doing some DayZ updates with LucasWhizz.
Yeah, hi guys, my name's LucasWhizz. We're going to be talking about the alpha and some bits and bobs of kind of what's been released recently. And to start with, there's been a new devlog, hasn't there, Dan?
There has. So finally, we've got a new dev blog to talk about. So they haven't actually released anything in a long while. So it's been a bit hard to kind of discuss about anything because nothing's really been leaked or spoken about. But we finally got some new information and facts to talk about during this video. But I think the first thing we should really focus on is why no release, you know?
Well, the first thing that Dean Rocket actually said in his devlog, which is the August devlog, although he did mention that it's kind of what they've been doing in July, the milestones that they've reached and things. The first thing he said was basically that the build is not ready for release. That's the alpha build. And he kind of discussed a few reasons as to why that is. Do you want to go through them quickly, Dan?
Yeah, so I guess it was kind of expected because Dean has got his kind of focus set on making the alpha amazing. I think he doesn't really realise that we want to expect a few bugs and he should just really get it out so we can test it. But we'll speak about why it's kind of been delayed. So the few reasons, obviously, the main one is probably that they're trying to optimize it for low performance computers, obviously. So this will obviously widen kind of the audience of who can play it. So basically, yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. He basically said that the whole one of the main things they've been trying to sort out is the client server side spawning of items, of zombies and things like that. And he mentioned at the moment that a lot of it are kind of that goes through onto the client side takes in the all of the spawning from the entire map. So all of the items, all of the zombies, all of the players, all of the tents and kind of items and
data.
customers yeah, exactly, cut data and things like that. At the moment the client's receiving everything from the whole map, which obviously degrades performance. What they're working on, and what he said at the moment, is that they want to sort that out. They want to fix that so only the items and zombies and players in your local area kind of are rendered, if you like, or from or in what's the word?
Yeah, well, I definitely get what you mean, but I'll just kind of overhaul that. So as Luke was saying, obviously at the moment in the mod, all your stuff is obviously client side. Therefore, all your data, it's all a part of your client, which obviously, as Luke said earlier, kind of degrades the performance that you can run. It lowers your frame rate, etc. And this gives hackers such a perfect opportunity because they've got access to all the data of kind of your player.
Yeah.
Whereas in the standalone, it's all going to be server side based. So this means a server will save your location and all your other bits of data. Therefore, hacking should be prevented, obviously, because they'll have very minimal access to anything really.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
obviously, because it's all server side, this means that you'll get better, obviously, performance as we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's why it's not been released. Is because they're still working on getting all of that stuff sorted. And hackers is one of the big things that no one likes in DayZ. Although sometimes, when you see a goat come up to you and start speaking, it can be funny.
It can be, can't it? But I mean, the thing is about the mod, obviously, you can have an awesome high-end gaming computer, and that may only just still be able to run it, kind of thing. So I think it's very important they get that down. And of course, they kind of mix the two together. They're preventing hackers and making it a lot better optimized. So I think they're very two big main points that they're succeeding at to do at the moment.
Yeah, and of course, one of the main complaints, as mentioned before, is hackers from the mod. Anyway, moving on, we're going to kind of try to talk about some of the stuff that we noticed from the gameplay footage that Dean showed. We won't be showing any video, but we'll go through some screenshots that we've taken and things like this. And the first thing we want to start with is kind of new customization, player customization. What we've seen so far is basically the opening cinematic, if you like, from this devlog showed a group of about 6, maybe 7 players. Obviously, they're all pre-alpha testers, and they all look different, and the kind of clothing and things that they're wearing, really, really good. What you got to say about that, Dan?
Yeah, that's definitely the first thing that probably kind of stood out to me because obviously at the moment you can have this trouble like, oh, is this you? And then it's not your friend, and then you end up getting shot because you have late reactions. Whereas if each player is unique, you're going to be able to tell your friends and enemies apart so kind of easily, if you like. Which I think is going to have a big kind of gameplay improvement, big time. And as you said, that everyone looks so individual and unique, which is also cool because obviously you get to customize your player.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly. And like I said, we've got a few screenshots kind of for you. One that I'm personally looking at the moment, which I'll overlay in the video. It shows 7 players. They're all different. So from left to right, we've got a guy who's wearing a t-shirt and trousers, white t-shirt, green trousers. Then someone's wearing a red jacket. Then someone's wearing a bicycle helmet. Then someone's got a bulletproof vest and jeans on. Then someone's wearing a pink a pink baseball cap. Then
bicycle.
red, yeah, red and black kind of Dennis the Menace t-shirt next, and then someone's just kind of wearing standard kind of what looks like survival gear. So it's very, very easy to determine who's who, and of course all of these different clothing items, helmets, and bulletproof vests, and t-shirts and trousers, they're all going to have effect on what your player does and how protected they are.
Yes, I think that's one of the main things I guess you noticed, but also there was a few kind of animations shown off in the gameplay. So we saw a bit of the zombie animations, because obviously in the recent development build of the standalone, the zombie animations were horrific. They weren't synced in with the hit, like when they hit you, you could get hit later on, and they weren't very synced, but they do look improved. Not perfect, but they are looking a lot more kind of hopeful, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously at the moment when you play the DayZ mod, which we're still playing at the moment because we love it. Um, the you don't expect everything to be perfect, and when you're expecting a full game release to come out like this, you do want things to look good. And although things are not perfect, there's certainly a marked improvement from the gameplay that we saw at E3. Um, Things like knocking your player over, the zombies kind of eating you when you're on the floor, knocked out or dead or whatever. They're all improved. The zombies kind of hitting you and jumping towards you looks a lot better, a lot crisper, like we said. And yeah, certainly, even though they said that they're going to delay it even more, at the moment it looks great and it's probably going to be better.
Yeah, exactly. I think the main point is it is definitely improved from the uh, last kind of lot of information we was given and gameplay. It is definitely a lot more improved. So I suppose that's the main. They're making progress, which is good. As
Yeah,
you said, there is slight improvement that you can notice.
yeah, exactly. And that's it's not just zombies as well. The player animations are also a lot better. There's a nice shot which they showed in this alpha footage of where there's kind of 2 players crouching behind a fence and then some more came running, jumped over the fence and things like that. I mentioned before as well when the zombies hit you over, the kind of animation of the person being flung back. We've seen that before, but it does look
It looks a bit more improved.
it looks really cool. And that kind of whole mechanic. Although at the moment I do know in the mod, the updated version of the mod, they have included a knockdown feature, haven't they? Where
Yeah,
you
I think
can.
they're slowly trying to implement everything that they've kind of got from the standalone into the mod to kind of test it and see how well it is, like kind of such.
Yeah, to see how it works kind of on the current system and then see how they can improve it
Exactly.
on the new one and things like that. Another thing to do with animations, Dean talked about this, one of the features that he's working on as to why it's, again, been delayed a little bit more, is kind of a new bleeding or health system, if you like. So he said, and he mentioned that if you get shot, you will bleed from the exact point on your body where you got shot, which of course will have implications. If you get shot in the leg, you're not going to be able to walk right. If you get shot in the arm, you're probably not going to be able to shoot right. And
Possibly not even able to shoot.
exactly, and they showed this off, didn't they? Because there was a guy limping, and he was like holding his side, wasn't he?
Yeah,
With
kind
his
of in
gun kind of
pain,
exactly with his
shot in
gun
the rib.
hanging down at his side, wasn't he?
Which is what we're looking for. This is the improvements we are definitely looking for. And it just overall makes it a better game. And one thing we probably kind of missed in the player customization, which I'll quickly go over now, is a kind of you'll see the screenshot during the video as an overlay. But obviously there's this kind of group of survivors kind of as such robbing a player. They've obviously pointing their weapons at him and he's kind of kneeling down on the floor, surrendering with his kind of hands above his head. And then later on, you see him wearing no clothes and possibly with all his gear on the floor. And the players all look kind of happy and they're just about to leave him, let him be, kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think one of the main things and kind of main things that I love about DayZ, and I know Dean has expressed this before in interviews and things, is that DayZ is your game. You start on the coast with nothing. You work your way up, and you can play it how you want to play it. Some people, me and you, like to be bandits. Others like to be heroes, and well, not heroes, but help people and try to make friends and things like that. Certainly, I think you're pushed towards the bandit route a bit more, and I think showing this, what you just said about where you're kind of robbing the player, shows that the bandit side of things is certainly still in the alpha, and they're not trying to deter away from that, as possibly hinted before in interviews and things. One thing that I heard Dean say in a separate video, which is actually not DayZ related at all, but I heard him talk about it, is that they've just been working on the motion capture for being able to cable tie people's hands.
Yeah, I mean that is an awesome idea, and that kind of all comes part of the crafting system. So you may need to gather materials to make the cable ties, or maybe I don't know, but there's so much potential as such, and I'm sure there's other ideas where you can kind of get rope and use that instead, and there's a possibility you can break out of it with a knife, so they can kind of implement it where you right click your knife and it'll say kind of cut rope. There's so much potential for kind of bits and bobs like that.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're the person that's been cable tied up, and again you're talking to friends and things like this, um, how they can rescue you, they can get a knife to cut your
Possibly
cable
player
ties.
interactions, as you was just mentioning. Obviously, maybe you will need to get other players to interact with to get freed as such. Maybe it's something you're unable to do yourself, which again, this pushes towards kind of working with other players and communicating.
And I hope as well, although it's not been mentioned, but a kind of a feature which I've got in my mind, which I think will work quite well, is obviously you're in an open world, and it's supposed to be kind of a living. I say living, poor choice of words, because obviously it's a zombie apocalypse, but you're in a world which people are trying to survive in. They're scraping by to try and find food and drink and things like this. So there would be little communities formed in kind of strongholds and things like this. So possibly
Yeah,
if you are playing as a bandit, you could have like, or in these kind of strongholds or areas of the map. I don't want to use the word safe zones, but these kind of areas where people can meet and things like that. There could be like wanted posters or warning posters and things like that of bandits.
yeah. So kind of letting the community aware of who is a bandit, who to stay away from, or even possibly it's a crazy idea, but bandits would capture players and take them back for fun, kind of thing, to annoy people as such.
Yeah, I mean, all of that's good, and obviously, it's been hinted before on kind of base building and underground bases and things. I don't think they're worrying
Yes.
about that at all for the alpha, but again, that's just another possibility. You can take someone back to your base, possibly blindfold them so they don't know where they're going,
Yeah,
and other
exactly.
things like this. Anyway, we're going to move on now to talk about the inventory. A lot of new things we noticed about the inventory in this alpha footage. Do you want to talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, well, obviously we've seen screenshots and the inventory beforehand, but this screenshot is definitely a better one. So at the moment, obviously, as usual, you've got player model in the middle, you've got your vicinity on your left, which is kind of items nearby you can drag it over. But what I want to focus on is the fact that you kind of got the weapon model down the bottom. So you've got, this is an M4A1, and you can see that it's got several attachments on it. So we've got looks of it like a bayonet, and then a blade as such, possibly. You got your sight, stock, and possibly like a barrel attachment. So I don't know if it's part of another gun that you possibly have to attach or not. But what's your thoughts on this, Luke?
Well, we were discussing it, weren't we? And what it seems is that slot where the gun is on this screenshot is like your hand, isn't it? So you could
Yes.
trade that out for a hatchet and things like this. And those 6 slots where the attachments are, I think that's for your gun. So you can store your gun in your backpack, and those attachments will still remain in the attachment slots, I think. And obviously, if you have something like a hatchet in your hands or something like that, those attachment slots won't be there. Um,
Right.
One thing we did point out, like you mentioned before, the barrel attachment. If you look just to the right, stored in his UK assault vest DPM camo, which again could serve as some kind of armor or something like that, you can see there's kind of another barrel-looking attachment in that. So it looks like a lot more of the parts of the weapons are interchangeable. And obviously, once you find these parts, you could find 10 kind of weapon modifications and things like this, but they limit you to 6 slots, so you can kind of customize your gun how you want it to be. So then it's your gun, if you like, rather than just finding a gun off the floor.
Exactly. So you can
Something
kind
like
of
that.
change the appearance, which kind of ties into player customization again, and kind of detecting who is your friend.
That's
So
a
not
good point,
only
yeah.
have you kind of got the clothing, at the moment you kind of use weapon recognition. Oh, Dan's got a M40 name, Luke's got a Lee Enfield. See anyone who hasn't got that weapon, pretty much kind of shoot them or try and interact to say you're friendly.
Yep.
And so obviously, if you can obviously tell your friends as such, your squad, by looking at their weapons as well, and it'll be a lot more distinctive because, as I said, you can obviously customize the appearance by looks of it, which is also another awesome concept that they've added in.
Yeah, and like we mentioned, those 2 barrel attachments, they will have factors. One will be better than the other. I'm sure this will all be explained, possibly like because Dean mentioned before, like in-game books and things, didn't he? Because
Yes.
there's no tutorials as such in DayZ, so maybe finding these will get you, an understanding of what is better. Now, one thing we did notice, which I will kind of highlight in the video, in the weapon slot, or sorry, in the hot bar, if you like, number 1, where it shows the M4A1, you can see how bare-boned it looks in that. So obviously in his hand slot, he's got the bayonet, he's got the sight, he's got the stock, he's got the magazine, he's got the barrel attachment. But if you look at that little thing, in that little kind of symbol of the M4A1 in the hotbar slot, look how bare bones it looks. It hasn't got a barrel, it hasn't got the bayonet, it hasn't got the sight, hasn't got
Doesn't
the
even display
magazine.
the magazine.
Exactly. So maybe you find it like this, and you have to find weapon slots for the gun to even work, possibly.
Very minimal, but there are even maybe possibilities of such building weapons or adding parts to another weapon. And we're kind of forgetting there could be attributes such as this. So obviously that barrel could reduce recoil on this weapon or improve damage. There's a lot of potential for what the attachments could actually do to the weapon itself. As I said, there could be attributes and kind of skills that the modifications would obviously bring, which is just more potential.
Definitely, and for me, the fact that there's a bayonet is just awesome straight away.
Yes, because you can imagine how good that would be in the zombie apocalypse. You kind of, if you don't really want to go loud because there's zombies around, but instead you can use the weapon, sprint up to them, and obviously bayonet the zombies. So you're kind of using that stealth ninja approach. So I think that bayonet is going to be such a crucial attachment, as well as the suppressor, obviously. But we don't know the rarity and kind of facts and figures of the modifications themselves.
Yeah, I think the idea is it's a zombie survival game. So what are the chances in real life that you're going to be able to find a high-end military gun with suppressor and with lots of ammo and with all these attachments? So this loadout that we're seeing with the M4 and all the attachments, I'm going to say that is going to probably be extremely hard to find, and it's going to be like probably what I would class as high-end gear in the game.
Yeah.
One quick thing to note about the inventory, which we noticed before, was I don't really know if we've seen this before or not, but you can see how they're kind of symbolizing the items that take up 2 slots. Obviously, you've got the squares which fit individual things in. You can see under the blue jeans we've got a heat pack and what looks to be some kind of tin can or something, a drink possibly. But then in the middle we've got what looks maybe like a
flour
med
or
kit.
something.
Yeah, flour. Did you just say?
It looks like a bag.
Yeah,
it
looks
flour.
like a bag of sugar or something. Doesn't it? Yeah, but it could be like a med kit or a blanket or something, kind of all rolled up. But it takes 2 slots up, and to symbolise that, they've just kind of put the
Spread it
icon.
across.
Yeah, spread it across the 2 boxes. One thing that there's been a lack of information on with items, weapons, and things like this is the durability of them. Now, there's no indication from this screenshot of how kind of worn out or damaged your weapon is. So, how do you think they're going to implement that?
Yeah, because obviously, as you just mentioned, Dean did actually mention that there was a possibility of kind of degradation or durability on weapons or clothing items, such as if your weapon's getting kind of teared and worn, you're going to need to replace it. Otherwise, your chance of infection risks are going to be higher. And also, mainly, you mentioned on the weapons, like say your durability is halfway down or whatnot. There's chance of weapon jamming or kind of like it won't be usable, such it could break. There's chance of inusability, if that's a word as such.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And also obviously the interchangeable barrels that we were just talking about. It may be good to have a spare one just in case your gun does malfunction and you can switch it out and things like that. But again, I think that's going to be really rare gear. So we'll find out obviously when the alpha comes out. Possibly.
And obviously, the player model is wearing all new items. We have never seen these kind of he's wearing hiking boots. In fact, it looks like.
Yeah.
And he's wearing this new assault vest, which is cool because he's actually got his backpack and assault vest, which is obviously extending kind of the slots he has. And if they do have some kind of durability or whatnot, maybe it could obviously give him more protection as such. And there's just loads of opportunities, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, obviously he's got looking at the screenshot here, he's got the beanie on, which is a strange choice in fashion for the zombie apocalypse. He's also got the red shirt with the vest over the top. So again, how much can you do that? Can you get little holsters for your legs possibly where you can store other things? I don't know how it's going to work. Obviously, well that's pretty much all been covered before anyway about how things can protect you, bulletproof vests and crash helmets and things like that. So what I think we should move on to now is, I mean, we briefly spoke about it before, is kind of the medical system with bleeding and things, but there's also other things, because obviously there's notifications that pop up that say you're hungry, you're thirsty. One that we noticed in this was it came up and said you are tired. So, how many of these kind of things can they implement? Are you affected by
fatigue? How to resolve them as well as such.
Exactly. So yeah, how do we think they're gonna sort that out?
Yeah, and just quickly going back onto the inventory, I know we're moving off that topic, but before we finish up,
Yeah, go on.
obviously, if you look kind of on the right side of the inventory, there's actually a scroll. So possibly, if you scroll down more, what is there? Is that, as you said, if there's going to be more items that you can add onto your player, like holsters, you're going to need, as you can see, his right side of his inventory is completely full. There'd be no more space to chuck anything. So obviously, there's a scroll bar. So I'm imagining you can kind of have like loads of kind of extended items to
Yeah.
expand your inventory as such, which is really cool. But as you were saying about the notifications, anyway, we'll move back onto that.
Yes.
I said, I think it's going to be very useful because you'll actually be notificated by the game as such.
Notified.
You, and at the moment, for new players, if your guy starts coughing, you're just kind of like, what the hell's happening? I've got a weird little symbol by my blood drop. What's this all about?
Yeah.
At least your player will be like, your player is feeling ill. And like then you may have you'll also have in-game animations and indications of this, so your player could start stumbling, or he might start stopping every now and then after running for a little while and like catching his breath as such.
Yeah.
So that not only is there going to be kind of in-game text notifications, there'll obviously be player animations to back this up.
Yeah,
Possibly not in
exactly.
the alpha, but eventually.
Well, although saying that, we saw the kind of injured soldier, if you like, moving away, limping and holding his side as if he'd been shot or injured like that. Kind of how far do we think they can advance the medical system? Obviously, they've spoken about blood bags and saline solutions and blood transfusions and things like this, and how realistic it would be, and so how they're changing it so it's not as easy to do those things. But if you break your arm or something, do you need to use a sling to kind of repair it or things like this? Or is it going to be as simple as it is at the moment, where you just inject yourself with morphine?
There is so much potential, you said. You may need to, or even they could just expand on it slightly, inject yourself with morphine, then you'll have to wear a kind of sling, which will kind of put that arm unusable, so you may only be able to wield a pistol, only a one kind of handed weapon, not your assault rifle, for a certain amount of time in the game. Or your player will also notify you when your player's kind of feeling better
Yeah.
and his arm is obviously healed as such. As you said, they can really mix them both up together. And once again, there's just so much potential they could do with it.
And what I hope they do as well, because like we said before, there's no tutorials in DayZ. You have to learn as you go. Obviously they're still using Chernarus, so the map will be fairly familiar to people that have played the mod before. But you won't even know your way around and things like this. So if they can introduce, or if they can somehow implement books and other reading materials in the game that you can use to learn these things, rather than just kind of blurting out all this information on a wiki or something, so you can learn as you go along, I think that would be much better than just kind of being spoon-fed the information.
Exactly, possibly like riddles and tips kind of thing. So it could be a weird little kind of rhyme, which indicates it could be like, I can't give you an example, but something about disinfecting tablets and water in like a little riddle. And if you're clever enough to click onto that, though, you'll then realise what will happen if you put them two together. Kind of, if you get what I mean. So the game can kind of not exactly just give it to you just like that, but
I
they
don't think I
can.
don't think this is Zelda, Dan. So I don't think you're getting any riddles or anything like that.
Well,
But
someone mentioned in one of my videos, maybe like a cooking book where you can then
that's a good
actually,
idea. Yeah.
you have access to recipes and you can then learn them and obviously use that to cook as such. And
Yeah.
obviously that will have attributes to your player for cooking better quality food, give you more like health restore, kind of bits and bobs like
That's
that.
that's a really good idea, and I think the last point really that I've got on that kind of whole system of fatigue and learning and tutorials and things like that is it's going to be experimental. You're going to find two kind of items in the world, and you think, hang on a minute, could they go together? And like we've seen in the gameplay footage, drag and drop it. If it doesn't work, fine, it doesn't work. But if it does, you go, oh, hey, I've discovered this, or oh, look what I know how to build now, kind of thing. So it's going to be very experimental, and it's going to be a good kind of feature in the game of being able to learn these things as you go.
Alright, so I think we should probably move on to the last few facts. So there is one last fact, and then should we go over kind of the overall thoughts of the new kind of progress they've made as such?
Yeah, so the last thing I've got is at the end of the dev blog, they interviewed one of the map designers, developers. I had kind of two feelings about this. One thing, obviously, they're always going to be developing. When it comes to a game which they want to release an alpha for, it develops as it goes. That's why you buy into the alpha. It's not going to be a perfect game. But the fact that the map developer was talking about how they're taking inspiration from this and they're still working on this, what unfortunately what I had to think about that was, if they're developing a game like this, a big open world game, which is it's an open world, you can do what you want, and they haven't sorted the map out yet, You know, they haven't fully designed the map, which is the world you're playing in. You know, how much does that hinder the development of it, and will that affect the release date at all?
Exactly, and obviously another thing that Dean mentioned during the video is the fact that their whole new kind of server side rather than client side system is going to be released during spring. It's not even out yet, so they haven't even got to test to see if that works and how kind of successful the new kind of server side system is. So again, there is all these questions to when is it going to be out. And unfortunately, at the end of the dev blog, and we did mention earlier, Dean did mention there is still no set for the release date. So it has obviously been pushed back again because he did mention that he wanted to get it out no later than the end of August. But I think the main thing we all need to remember is it's going to be awesome when it does come out, and just to kind of support it, give Dean loads of feedback and see where it goes from there.
And again, like I briefly mentioned before, it's an alpha. If you're going to buy it in alpha stage, expect bugs, expect problems with it. You've paid cheaper price than it will be when the game is fully released to test the game. That's what you're there for. You're alpha testers. So when it finally does hit, which I'm going to make a prediction now, alpha probably Christmas.
Yeah,
Christmas.
possibly kind of like
maybe a closed alpha for certain testers.
October maybe, but I think we're more looking scheduled about another. It's got to be done by surely it's got to be done within another like 3-4 months of hard work put into it.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much all we've got for you.
I think that's
today.
a sensible idea anyway.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's pretty much it. We've covered a lot.
We've covered a lot.
I hope you've all enjoyed our kind of run through of what we've seen. If you have any notes, obviously be sure to leave them in the description. This channel will be going up on both. This video, sorry, will be going up on both our channels.
Yeah, so thanks for staying tuned with me and Luke, and I hope you enjoyed the video. As I said, tried to mix it up on my channel a bit. Usually I do this thing a bit solo, but kind of thought we'll mix it up a bit and do a bit of a dual commentary with Luke. So if you enjoyed this video with me and Luke, obviously if you're from my channel, don't forget to head over to Luke's and vice versa, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's it from us. So my name's been
Thanks for watching,
LucasWhizz.
guys.
Been here with Dan, EvoX. We'll see you soon.